Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. This is Nani, co-host of the Filipino American Women Project podcast show. And before we get started today, we want to celebrate another Pinay visionary in honor of Filipino American History Month and give a shout out to a Pinay that has been nominated by Anna Did a Thing on Instagram, and her name is Ruby Ibarra. Jen, do you want to tell us a little bit about Ruby?
I do. And I also just want to give a shout out to IG handle Anna Did a Thing. She tags us in like everything she does. So if you want to learn more about Anna Did a Thing, just check out the show notes. But just shout out to you, girl, for engaging with us and sharing your art with us. We see you, we recognize you, and we appreciate you, inviting us to be part of your journey as an artist. So thank you so much for that. So Ruby Ibarra, I have learned about her for the first time this year. And I don't know how I ended up hearing about her. I'm sure it was through the grapevine or like someone, probably tagged the Filipino American Woman on Instagram, and that's how I heard of her. But I had decided to listen to her music, and oh my goodness, she is a powerhouse. So if you don't know Ruby Ibarra, and if you really don't know, you better look her up because she's a Bay Area rapper, producer, and she does spoken word. Her most popular song right now is called Us, which is about cultural heritage and her immigrant experience in the United States. So Nani and I, we are learning about these women as we go. So part of that also means doing a Google search of them. So let me go ahead and just pull up her bio real quick for you, if you are hearing about Ruby Ibarra for the first time. So Ruby was born in the Philippines. She spent the first 4 years of her life in Tacloban City before her family eventually settled in San Lorenzo, California. She submerged in the melting pot of the Bay Area. Ruby's adolescent years introduced her to a wide array of cultures, experiences, and most importantly, hip hop, which resonated at every corner of her neighborhood. She's known for her sharp lyricism and rhythmic, multi-syllabic flows. She attributes her musical identity to being a child during the 90s, constantly hearing Tupac, Eminem, and Wu-Tang Clan play on the radio and television. And she constantly knew rap was the best way she could express herself. And let me tell you, when I listen to her music, it's not child's play. Like you have to like really listen to, like, if you really pay attention, she's talking about real stuff and stuff that is very relevant to the Filipino American community. Nani, anything you want to add to that?
I'm seconding everything that you're saying. I also just recently started listening to her music, and I know that's bad because I'm from Oakland and I should have been familiar with her sooner, but I second everything that you're saying about her music and really love her lyrics.
Awesome. So if you want to learn more about Ruby, shout out to you, Ruby. I aspire to have you on our show. So listeners, if you can, I don't know, get her attention and say,
go
hey,
spam
we'd love
Ruby
to have
on Instagram.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's all spam Ruby. And I mean, appropriately and nicely. Don't overdo it. Don't abuse her or harass her or anything. Please don't do that. But yeah, we would love to have her on the show. I know, shout out to my friend, Leah Lambos. She had recently coordinated an event in San Diego in which they brought out Ruby Ibarra, and that's where she like performed over there. So yeah, we would love, just shout out to you. The cool thing about our Pinay visionaries that we've been talking about so far on the show, these people are living, breathing women today. Like, this is not women we're talking about like, centuries ago. These are
figures. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah. These are women who are alive and kicking it and doing good today. So please check them out, reach out to them, and just applaud them for the work that they're doing, because I think we all know, or we all have gathered as Filipino American women, that anytime we put ourselves out there is really a courageous act. If you're kind of like basing our identity with the Maria Clara archetype. So shout out to you, Ruby. Totally recommend our listeners reach out to her or like listen to her music at least. And with that said, if you have a Panay visionary, if you know someone that you consider a Panay visionary, we would love to hear from you. Feel free to reach out to us. You can check out our show notes on how to do that. Please share the name and also a brief description. It'll be very helpful for us because otherwise we're going to do a Google search of them. But yes, please reach out and give us a description as to why you consider this Filipino American woman a Panay visionary. And we'll be more than happy to feature them in the next episode and give you a shout out for doing that. All right. Well, with that said, let's go ahead and get started on our episode. Welcome to the Filipino American Women Project, a podcast show that shares stories and life lessons told by individuals living or have lived in America that are of Filipino descent and identify as female. I'm your host, Jen Amos, a fellow Filipino American woman, and I'm excited for you to join us. Let's get started. All right. Hi, everyone. Jen Amos here with the Filipino American Women Project podcast show. And as always, I'm with my co-host, Nani Dominguez. Nani, welcome back to the show.
Hello.
And as always, we once again have an amazing woman to feature on our show today, Marjory Ware. She is a first-generation Filipino/white woman, marriage and family therapist in Washington State, and enneagram nerd Marjory Ware. She holds a Master of Counseling from St. Martin's University with a specialization in marriage and family therapy. She's a licensed marriage and family therapist associate and a licensed mental health counselor associate. Marjory is a member of the American Association of Marriage and Family Therapy and a member of the American Counseling Association. Her experience includes working at a child study and treatment center in Lakewood, Washington as a psychiatric child care counselor for 5 years, and 2 years working with adolescents as a mental health technician. Her true passion is to specialize in working with individuals, couples, and families in private practice, working on a range of issues, including depression, trauma, anti-oppression, anger management, identity work, and existentialism. Also, fun fact about Marjory is she is fluent in Tagalog and a therapist for Women X of Color. Marjory Ware, welcome to the show.
Hi. I sound so fancy suddenly with that description. I was like, I've never had it read out loud to me before.
You know, one time we had one of our first live events for the Filipino American Women Project back in 2018. It was for the Filipino American Heritage Month, which is actually coming up in October. And I had this like long bio, and I've never had anyone read it out loud before, but I was reading the bios of the people that were on the panel with me. And then one of them was like, let me read your bio for you. Like, let me introduce you in front of everyone for you. Because I was just going to read my bio myself. So then they ended up reading it, and I was like, wow, it's out. Is that me? Like, that's me.
You're like, damn, I sound good.
Yeah. I was like, sweet. Like, I sound great. And I wrote that, but it doesn't sound like I wrote it. Yeah. Well, why don't we start, Marjory, with you sharing, how did you hear about the project and what inspired you to come on our show today and share your story?
So I heard about the project I saw the project on Instagram. I was looking at, it was a Filipino podcast, and they had somehow put you in the story, and I was like, what is this Filipino American Women Project? I'm those things, and I'm going to go check it out. So I clicked on the page, and I was like, whoa, this is super cool. And I have been a big fan of podcasts in general because my drive to work is 30 minutes. But I try to find podcasts to listen to, and I looked into it more, and it was in the middle of the night, I think, is when I was like, you know what, fuck this. I'm going to just message and see what happens because I'm super interested in whatever this is. And I messaged you, or the Instagram account, and you got back to me like the next morning, I think. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is really cool. And then I started listening to the podcast, And then I had a talk with you, and that's where it all sort of started. There's that part. But it definitely felt like this interesting. So in my world of therapy, we love talking about synchronicity and shit. So there was this weird feeling where I needed to belong in the capacity of like the Filipino world here in America, which I've never really decided to join since coming here. Because like assimilation and other things are way more important, like being safe and pretending like you're not any of those things. So this year has sort of been like the first time where I'm like, I'm gonna not make excuses anymore or hide and be proud that I am half Filipino, which before I wasn't.
Well, I am glad that you chose the Filipino American Women Project to be one of those first things that you wanted to get involved with in the Filipino community. So I'm extremely honored that you reached out. And I also, I mentioned this when we first spoke on the phone, but I just want to applaud you for, like, even though you didn't know what to expect, you trusted your gut and your heart and you reached out anyway. And here we are, here we are on a show together. And I'm especially excited to speak with you because of your professional background and what you do. I was just telling Nani offline that my degree in college was supposed to be psychology until the first F I ever got in my life was in Psychology 101. Yeah, that was pretty heartbreaking for me. And also my uncle that I'm estranged with, he would say, "Oh, you want to talk to crazy people? Is that what you want to do for a living?" And so I was pretty discouraged early on. Getting an F didn't help, and then my family didn't really help. But I've always been drawn to psychology and therapy and understanding people and their triggers and especially like my own. And I feel like in a lot of my own relationships, I've always kind of somehow ended up taking this motherly role for a lot of my friends to, listen to them and support them and nurture them. And if there's anything that, if I do go back to school, which I don't know if I ever will, but if I do, I would, consider pursuing therapy. So, or being a therapist of some sort. So yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but yes. Yes, we are happy to have you on the show. And, I feel the same way with you, at least I had in the past, where I would just completely remove myself from the Filipino community because one, I had felt unsafe, which if you've been listening to our past shows, I explained why I had felt unsafe in my own community. But also I kind of just felt like inferior as someone of Filipino descent. And so I had tried to gravitate toward more, let's say, dominant type cultures, especially the American culture, and take more pride in that. And so, but obviously, even though I'm American and I'm dark skinned and I'm never gonna not be Filipino, so I might as well embrace it in a way that's most comfortable for me, and hence how this project came about. And so I'm just really happy to hear that you kind of went on this path of assimilating, like, even though we'll get into your story. I'm already like revealing your story, but you had to assimilate. And then now that you're coming back, it's just great that you can do it with us. And we hope that we give you a great experience of the Filipino American culture out here.
Heck yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So why, speaking of being a Filipino American woman, you kind of hinted at this when you moved here, you had to assimilate. So why don't you share with us why you identify as a Filipino American woman today?
Ooh, man. Well, let's see. It's kind of difficult. So I grew up in the Philippines until I was 16. So we moved here, 2004 now? And so in the Philippines, I'm always the kana, right? So that's the white person or not the Filipino person. Growing up in all of my classes, that's just who I am. I am the white woman. So, and of course, up there or down there, where is the Philippines?
Over there.
Is it like
over there?
Over there.
Over there. Point with your mouth, please. Yes. So there, my whole family, which my dad was there, who's white, and my mom have always taught me that we're not Filipino, that we're white people.
Wow.
To me and my sister. And then, of course, all my cousins included, right? So it was really ingrained in me that I was white growing up and that I will never have the same experiences as my Filipino family. So I didn't really take much into that as a child because 8, 9, 10-year-old was like, okay, whatever. I guess I'm different. It's fine. So then when we got here to America and it was time to go back to school because I would have been 16, immediately we were put into the ESL classes, which is English as a Second Language class, to just make sure that we can communicate properly or at least fully with people, even though we could already speak English, but it wasn't the best. So coming into the school, my sister and I were put into all the classes where they're international people and they're all Korean or Japanese or whatever have you. And we're like, wait a minute, we're not any of those people.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we in these classes? I'm not sure. I don't understand. And this is weird. And why are people like really curious about our accent, and why are they really curious about like where we're from? And this is so odd. And then sort of subconsciously realizing I don't want to be different anymore. Like that was really tiring in the Philippines where I'm not them, and now I'm coming here where I'm supposed to be them, white, and I'm not that either. So my sister and I I was really into like, oh my gosh, I want to like dye my hair blonde, and then I'm going to wear blue eye contacts, and I'm only going to be friends with white people, and they're going to critique the way I enunciate my words. They're going to be the ones who are going to help me fully be my white self. Now, This is all obviously subconscious, but it was the only way I knew how to figure out how to belong. And I think that's ultimately been my goal in anything, because if I didn't belong there and everyone says I belong here and I'm finally here, I should belong, but I don't. Let's go, right? So I think it was very interesting that for a long time, at least until my grad school years, which I was 26, it wasn't until then that I was like, wow, I've been really not trying to be Filipino.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I was trying to be just white. And no one really saw me that way here.
Wow.
Just based on how I looked. Yeah. So assimilation, it definitely kept me safe. Not getting my feelings hurt.
I think the reason why we all do anything is either for safety or for belonging. And I think it's quite interesting that your family was very firm about you understanding that you were white and you were never going to live the life of your Filipino like relatives and peers. And so for you to be years later, for you to like, it's not a wonder that you're struggling with it. And now that you're coming back to really embrace that side. Nani, I kind of want to check in with you and see if you had any thoughts on this.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on this. I mean, just because I can say that I feel that exact same way, and not that I've had that same experience. I was born here and raised here in America, but I completely get that whole like, well, you don't know where you belong, and you know that you're white, and you know that you're Filipina, except every time you're in one of those communities, you don't feel like you fit in, and other people make you feel like you don't fit in. So it leaves you as a child or a teenager, especially at 16. I can't even imagine how I would have tried to process an experience like that, like moving to a new country and integrating into a whole new school system. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was definitely I definitely learned how to what do you call it, and sort of numb yourself to adapt as fast as you can. So there was not a whole lot of processing where you're just like, sure, whatever, we're just gonna do this thing. And then you sort of, at least for me, you just wake up one day realizing like you stopped thinking about you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's exactly how I kind of feel now, is like just looking back at even a year ago, it's kind of like I was just sitting here letting my life fly by me. But that's what I was used to, is just being told what to do and being obedient and doing it,
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I totally get that feeling. And like I said, I think that that's the base of my whole internal struggle, is exactly what you just described. Yeah, I mean, I clearly haven't figured it out, but I'm here with you. I feel you.
Yes, the whole point, right? Like, oh, it's actually, you're not alone.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, because Marjorie, you mentioned that this is the year that you want to start delving into the community and getting in touch with your Filipino roots. Was there something that happened, or like a major epiphany that happened to you where you're like, where you were like, you know what, I'm gonna embrace my Filipino side now. Like, F it, I'm gonna do it.
Oh man, I guess I'm gonna have to just be truthful about this. and because it was really hard to accept that was what was happening to me. So this year I've been following a bunch of amazing Filipino women, men, social media, and even around in my community, and how much pride they had for our culture. Yeah, I'm like kind of trying to get used to like owning that part. And there was this one person who was so cool that I hated her for just showing up and just being like, and I'm Filipino and I do this and I do that in my Filipino culture, and I work to help with this and that. And I was just getting so annoyed, and I was like, who does that? Like, what Filipino will just like come out there and be like, this is what I do, right? And I was so pissed. Like, I was looking at my other friends and I was like, I don't get it. I don't get why I'm like upset with her for using that, for being Filipino-ness. And sort of like someone started asking me, well, what is it? Why is it bothersome? And just did the whole deep question. And I was like, no, I'm not ready.
Totally get that too.
Yep. And it was because I was envious. I was envious of how proud she was, and that she looked the part and no one would question it. She had grown up there and been here and has done her work and knows the history. I mean, I do too, but people question it just because of like, I look a little different as a Filipino woman. And it appeared to me that she didn't have to work hard to prove herself. And I was so envious of that. And I was like, I just want to come out and be like, I am Filipino and white, and I know too. So that was sort of the first time when I was like, oh, it's because you're not doing the thing that you need to do. You're not owning yourself. So that was sort of the start. It was a really harsh awakening for me.
But it must be kind of hard to try and define that for yourself when all of the environments that you're being put into, people are constantly telling you something opposing to whatever it is that whatever thought you're trying to run with, right? Like, I mean, I just am thinking of my own example. Like, in my own family, they don't even call me by name. They just call me white girl. Like, every time I walk in the house, hey, the white girl's here. Or
oh my God.
like, that's, yeah. And I mean, I don't even think of it as offensive because they've done that my whole entire life. Like, I don't even take it as offense anymore, or I never took it as offense. But when you get older and you start to like kind of catch those little things, you're like, hold on. My blood is just as the same as your blood. Like, why are you doing that?
Yeah. Why are you othering me? It makes no sense.
Right.
Yeah.
I like that. Why are you othering me?
I like that too. That's a really good way to sum it up.
Yeah. So I can imagine that's exactly what was going on with me, and not only that, like there's another layer, at least when it comes to like our families othering us. But I'm also like a fat-bodied Filipino white woman. So not only do I get like white girl, but I'm fat white girl. And it's just like all of these terms that at least like here in America, you have a hard time with that. And in the Philippines, that's always been our we can just be blunt culture. It's very interesting as a therapist of like, I know that our culture is about being blunt, and that's how we show how we care. And how can I make it so that I'm not hurt? Because if I don't care that you're not hurt, but I care that I don't hurt, so how can I tell you, please stop? Because that makes me feel different than you. And my sole motivation in my life is to belong, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like this, it's very interesting, our dynamics and yet that's they love that we're biracial for some reason too.
I just want to thank you for being so revealing and transparent about that. I know firsthand as well of what it's like to just be envious of other people. I'll share a story. She'll never listen to this podcast, and I won't say her name either. But there's
you say that before you tell every story,
I do.
just in case any of these people listen to the podcast.
I know. No, it's funny. One of my girlfriends, in actually Giselle, she was episode 2, or was it 2 or 3? I think it's episode one of those, one at the beginning. Giselle Diaz. She's been telling me because she really misses me, and we send each other messages just throughout the week and stuff, just to check in with each other. But she was telling me like, oh, like when I miss you, I listen to the podcast show because it makes me feel like you're there with me. And I was like, oh, that's so sweet. And I'm also thinking like, oh, good thing I haven't bashed her or anything yet. I mean, just so you know, Giselle, if you're listening, I have nothing bad to say about you. I love you so much. And I'm not just saying that because I'm like on air, but no, Giselle is she's amazing. She's one of my sisters, like, like a sister kind of friend. And anyway, let me get to the point of this. So, all right, Jen Amos here, jumping into the middle of our show, as I always do, to remind you why this show is possible. So, at the end of every episode, I tend to say, if you didn't catch our guest contact info, don't worry, we'll have those in the show notes. Check them out. I worked so hard on them. You're welcome. Well, it's been brought to my attention that our show notes are not as easy to find as I thought, which is why starting summer 2020, the Filipino American Women Project is proud to be partnering with Captivate, the world's only growth-oriented podcast host. Captivate is created for independent podcasters, designed from day one to help you to focus on audience growth and the expansion of your audio influence. One way that Captivate makes our lives easier as independent podcasters is by taking the guesswork out of making a website for your show. That's right, a website for your show. So listeners, starting summer 2020, finding our show notes will be so much easier. All thanks to Captivate. You're welcome, as always. If you're about to start podcasting or are getting burnt out from all the extra work of producing one, like building a website, consider a 7-day free trial, that's right, free, with Captivate by visiting thefil-am-woman.com. That's the Fil-Am, short for Filipino American Woman.com. Or, check out our show notes in the meantime, which is in the details section of each episode. Once again, you can visit thefil-am-woman.com or visit the details section of this episode.
Sorry.
So a couple years ago, when in my kind of former life of being in online marketing, I a business owner, I had an online marketing agency, and I had run into a girl that not only was born in the same country as me. I was born in Japan on American soil because my dad was in the military, but she was born in the same month. So we were the same signs. She was dark skinned like me. So she was Filipina. She was leaner and cuter than me and just has it together. And she was also like a badass bitch online. Like she had all her social media on point. Like she was invited to speaking engagements. She was basically like the epitome of what I thought I wanted to be for like my online marketing career. And I was so envious that I didn't block her, but I just like unfollowed her. I was like, this is not healthy for me. Like I can control my news feed and I just can't like follow her. It's just not healthy. Like she puts a lot of positive messaging out there, which I really hate. She's just such a loving person. And she puts quotes like empowered women, empower women out there. And I still couldn't stand it. And I really had to look at myself eventually, when I just dropped the ego. And I was like, okay, what does she represent to me? And I thought at that time that I wanted to be like her. But then when I really started to unpack it, I started to realize that I no longer wanted to be in this career path of online marketing. And so, but that took me a while to get to that point. And then once I got to that, I mean, even now, I'm still not going to follow her on social media because she'll remind me of what I failed to be or what I think I failed to be. But I totally get that where, sometimes when you're envious of someone, it's really a reflection of something you've denied of yourself or that something that you denied of yourself or something that you haven't had the courage to like pursue or become yet. And then you see someone who's doing it and killing it and you're just like, like that should be me. So yeah, I completely understand. And I have other like situations like that as well. And oddly enough, but maybe not oddly enough, I tend to feel that way about other Filipino women. I tend to, I don't know what it is. Like she might listen to the show, so I won't get too descriptive about her. But I have a friend who was near my age, and it just always felt like we were competing. Like it wasn't intended, but it just felt that way. And eventually I got to this place where I was like, it's just not healthy for me to be around this person. Like I appreciate like who she is and what she does and what she says, but it's just not helping me like mentally and emotionally to like hear her and hear her talk and her try to be an example of who she thinks everyone should be. I just can't be around that. And so, but it also taught me about myself and what the type of people I wanted to be around as well. So anyway, Nani, you have any similar stories yourself?
Have you envied other Filipino women?
I don't know if envy is the right word. I don't think that I come from a starting point of as much confidence as you guys have in yourselves to like when I look at other Filipino women, I get really inspired and I want to like do what they're doing rather than expecting myself to have already thought of it. So I wouldn't use the word envy, but I mean, I'm on Instagram all day long looking at all these other Filipino women that are constantly inspiring me and keeping me engaged.
Well, that's healthy.
Yeah, that's definitely healthier.
Yeah. Good for you, Nani. Good for you.
Applause.
No, but no, I tend to draw inspiration from like people either much older than me or much younger than me. Like and just so everyone knows, like I don't know if I brought this up on the show yet, but shortly after I lost my dad, we moved from Japan to San Diego. And in my elementary years, and middle school years, I had a tight-knit group of girlfriends, two of them being Filipina. And then in middle school, they had decided to disband our group. Like we were like a group of 5 or something, and they decided to disband us. And then months later, they started walking around the school with their big ass Filipina group and they would confront people. Like whenever one of them heard a small rumor about them, they would bring their entire Filipino group and confront that one person and just like say shit about them. Like, and it happened to me a couple of times in middle school. So I was actually bullied by my peers that were Filipino women. And so that made it really difficult for me to like have Filipino connections. Yeah, exactly. Because it was just very catty. It was completely unnecessary what they did. And that kind of stuck with me. But part of this project, and I mentioned this many times already, if people have been listening to the show in chronological order, that I'm trying to rewrite my own narrative and trying to craft a new story of Filipino women do get along. Filipino women want to help each other survive and thrive and uplift one another. And since this project started in 2016, it's been nothing but that. There was one circumstance, which I'll probably save for a future episode. But other than that, like it's just been mainly supportive women, supporting one another and just wanting to uplift one another. And I'm just glad that of all the things that I have gone through, that it led me to this point to be with you ladies today.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. So that just reminded me of exactly what happened to me. And I was like, is this a thing? Is this a middle school Filipino thing? But yeah, that bullying part is very interesting. We do sort of come in groups. I was one of those people.
Were you one of the bullies? What were you?
It was.
What side were you on?
I was sort of the weird one. I was the one who like was part of the bulliers, or like the pretty Filipino girls, like they put me in there. But in that group, I was not. So let me set up scenario for you. Like this is how it goes down. So it's like, in the Philippines, we don't have middle school. So it was like sophomore year in the Philippines. And I'm in the group with all the beautiful Filipino girls. And there's 5 of us. And we're all sitting and we're watching, like we're in math or something, because we have math there in class in school. And there's all the popular boys behind us, like in the back seats. And the boys were like, hey girls, turn around. And we all turn around and are like, oh, except you. Like I was like the ugly duckling. You shouldn't really be with the popular girls. I don't know why they put you there.
What?
Oh my
They said that?
Yes. Look, so even back then, I was also called like, who was it with that long hair dude? Steven Seagal.
From Black Eyed Peas? Are you talking about that guy with the long hair?
No. Steven Seagal, like the weird American dude who has long hair. And I was like, what? I'm so confused. And then in that, I was always just like made fun of or like put down, and they would use me to like start rumors. And then they'll tell other girls like, oh no, Marjory did it. And then so the group of girls would then come to me and like put me aside in the like bathroom stall and be like, what the heck did you say? And we heard you did this. And I'm over here like, what? I don't understand what I just did. But yeah, it was sort of like an interesting like middle.
You're kind of just a scapegoat for everybody.
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So that was sort of mine. So it was really difficult to like, do I want that again? And even coming here, and I love my cousins, but I still get questioned even by them, like, I get it. You like grew up there and you speak Filipino or Tagalog, and you will never know. You'll never know what it's still like to be full Filipino American here. And I was like, I know. And that's not the goal.
Yeah.
The goal is that we experience some sort of oppression just for the fact that we're not white, at least in race. So it's been really hard to like even want to be proud. And I was even embarrassed to like show off speaking fluent Filipino.
Yeah.
I mean, I can imagine
crazy.
as like an adolescent or a young kid, you would just assume that would give people more of a reason to make fun of you or to pick at you for something.
Yeah. and I was afraid of Filipino people saying like, no, you know, like I tried to join like a Filipino group in my college or my university, and they're like, well, and I was like, I know things.
Yeah.
But, you know, and it was so hard to like belong. So that turned me off.
It's so interesting because, I mean, as far as I know, I'm full Filipino. My mom was from Bulacan and my dad was from Zambales. I can never pronounce this right, but they met in like Olongapo.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry, what's up?
Does your family know my family? Because I'm from Zambales. And my parents.
I mean, if you ask them if they know Amos, like our last name, maybe. I don't know. We'll have to look into it.
Okay, you guys both have to do like a 23andMe now.
I will ask my mom. I'll say, do you know the Wares? Like, do you know them?
It would be Salazar, because that's just my dad is the Ware. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That would be crazy.
You're going to have to like text me like your full name later. And then I'm going to go ask, I'll text my mom and I'll ask her. I was like, do you know Marjory? Do you know her family?
Do you know them?
Wow. That's crazy. It's a freaking small world. I will be so mind blown, but also so excited if we were like related or at least like have like family mutual friends kind of thing.
Yes.
That would be so crazy if you guys were related.
Oh my God. I would love it.
Like distant cousins.
Yes.
Yeah, like my 10th cousin.
We're all cousins.
Yeah, exactly. We're all cousins. It's so true. I was just thinking, well, there's two things I was thinking about. The first thing is I could only imagine those girls that mistreated you were extremely envious of you because you were white. I feel that because part of the whole colonial mentality is aspiring to be light-skinned, Americanized, or what have you. And from my perspective, as someone who is dark-skinned, I remember, you know, my mom has the papaya soaps. You know, she uses it all the time. She has pale skin. Like you can see pictures of us and she's like the total opposite of me. Like I'm black, she's white. And I remember there was a time where I was just trying to use papaya soap all the time because I did like track and field and I was always doing something outdoors when I was in high school. So I was like really dark, but I used so much of the papaya soap that I started to look orange. And then eventually I had to just be like, you know what, this is me. This is who I am. However, I've always been intrigued by light-skinned Filipino women without really knowing the issues that you both went through, how difficult it is, especially if you're a mestiza. Like, although that's, at least from my upbringing, it was kind of like you both would be considered like put on a pedestal, for example, because of your pale skin. And yet I never looked at it from your perspectives of like, even if you do have that, it's really not an advantage as someone like myself would think so because of all the internal struggle that both of you have to go through. And so I just, I was very excited to just have the show today to kind of be sandwiched by mestizas and learn both of your perspectives, because I don't think I've ever really delved deep into it myself to understand your perspective. Not that I was biased or anything. I just never had an opportunity to ask like what it's like to, how do you find belonging? And it sounds to me that for both of you, it's really about assimilating to whatever is the dominant culture. And in this case, for both of you, it's the American culture. So did I get that right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, I think, I don't know, I need to gather my thoughts for a minute, but I think that what I hear from Marjory, and also where like kind of where my origin is feeling the need to prove yourself. For me, it's like, I don't know if I'm supposed to be working to prove myself to the Filipino American community or to the white girl community. You know what I mean? I've never identified with my white side of my family, not on, well, I guess on a cultural level, but when I was younger, I couldn't really understand why I couldn't make that connection with them. And even like up until her dying day, my mom's mom, my grandma on my mom's side, would ask me every single time I saw her. And mind you, she was in my life like just as much as my other grandma. Like I had a very close relationship with her. And still, every time I would see her, she would ask me, do you feel related to us the way you feel related to your dad's family?
Mm.
And I was just like, that
Whoa.
question used to frustrate me so much because I was like, Grandma, I love you. You know what I mean? I didn't choose you. You're my grandma. Like I'm here and I love you and I spend as much time with you as I do with my dad's family. I don't know what you want me to do here. Like what do you
Mhm.
need me to show you for you to not feel like that? But then on my dad's side, it's like I may feel I belong there, but they sometimes make me feel like I don't.
Mhm.
You know, like the example last week, we had family from the Philippines visiting in town. And when I got there, everyone's like, oh, the white girl's here. And so they're asking me questions about what I do and what I'm into. And somehow it came up that I have snakes as pets. I don't know if I told you that, Jen,
I've
before,
seen
but
it
I
in
have.
your stories. That's so
Oh, okay.
badass, by the way.
I've always
Yeah.
loved snakes. They're like my favorite animals for some reason. So I have two, and that came up, and everybody was like, like freaked out. And they were making a joke, like, yeah, it's the half non-Filipina that is the crazy one that likes snakes and is into weird
Mm.
stuff. And it's just kind of like, oh my God, I'm 27 years old. Like when when are we gonna stop this little game?
Yeah.
Ugh,
Yeah.
wow, ladies.
That's intense.
Yeah. I'm kind of speechless. I'm just grateful to hear both of your perspectives on this. And I wish I had like more words to say or like words of encouragement other than I feel like part of what this project, the Filipino American Women Project, is about is reclaiming our narrative and not letting other people's narratives of us dominate like our own narratives. And so
Mhm.
I just want to thank you both for exploring that together and with me and with the show because it's not easy. It's not easy and
Mhm.
it's real and I know that you both live with that confusion every day and it gives me more perspective as well. So I really want to thank you both for sharing that both of your perspectives.
Yeah. I do have one question for Marjorie, if I can interject.
Yeah, do
Yes.
it.
So, what is that like for you being a therapist and helping other
Mm.
people with these same kinds of struggles and feelings? What is that like for you to have a client come to you and kind of speak your story and tell you how they feel, which seems to be identical to how you feel?
Hmm. Oh man. So what's it like for them to come in? Well, have you ever watched Selena? You know,
I
that
have not.
movie? Oh man.
Selena with
No, but I'm
Jennifer
embarrassed
Lopez.
that I haven't.
Mhm. There's a part where she is like driving somewhere to a concert to speak, and everyone's like, "You need to speak Spanish," and she goes, "Oh, I'm just so tired because like when I'm with my Mexicans, I'm not Mexican enough, and with my white people, I'm not white enough." And like when people say that, it's like it's just continually validating to hear people have the same struggle, and then also sort of getting annoyed because it's actually so common
Yeah.
for people to be biracial and multiracial,
Mm-hmm.
and somehow and we make up majority of the world of being mixed race, and just sort of annoyed that the world has not caught up to that place that we're the majority
Mm-hmm.
and we're here still struggling to belong or to just sort of feel accepted for just who we are. So I think when I see them, I get annoyed at the world ultimately for like all the systemic oppression and why it still does the thing and it continues on and no one else can do it unless everyone does the thing. So, but I think in that I have the gift of complete understanding, which normally, in therapy, I will never know everyone's experience, but when it comes to biracial and multiracial clients, I can definitely sit in that space of pain and hold it and sort of heal together in those sessions, which is really cool and powerful. And I think if it weren't me being a therapist, I wouldn't know how to do that.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that being a therapist is weird. Yeah. I don't know if that answered your question, Nani, but
Yeah, no, it did. And I also love what you said about mixed kids and how we are becoming the majority now. I think we're living in a really weird time where we're witnessing that kind of shift, or at least starting to witness that shift that will hopefully continue to happen, where people will recognize that.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm like, come on. Everyone's having babies with other races. It's not
Right,
unusual
everyone is
anymore.
mixed these days. It's like, yeah.
And so I did like this 23andMe, like the DNA test, and obviously it's 50-50. And in my South Asian parts, it had multiple types of Asians. And like, I was like, Filipinos are like literally the most multiracial.
Yeah.
Like even when you try to trace back, it just gets more confusing.
It gets more confusing, and I'm just like, oh, it's fine. Yeah, so I think that's also very interesting. It's just fun watching it, though.
Would you ever be interested in moving your practice back to the Philippines?
You know, probably not. One, because I think it would be difficult to make a living there.
Because of the stigma against therapy, or because like just the wage difference?
Those two things. Although this year I am noticing that in the news that they're making sure to talk more about that and going to psychologists and therapists. It's cute. You guys should look it up, of like little YouTube clippets of like role plays that Filipinos do when they go to therapy. It's very cute.
Oh yeah.
It's very cute. And I was like, oh, I mean, that's exactly what we do. But yes, it would be that. And I think I like the America family that I have here. It'd be difficult to, say goodbye to, for sure. I'll just see all the Filipinos here.
Well, I'd like to believe, ladies, that we are in the forefront of embracing whatever it is we're trying to figure out. Because I know, and I bet that there's a lot of our listeners who just can't put into words what we're trying to explain ourselves. And I believe that we're all coming together to figure this out. And it couldn't have been at a better time. I think in any other place in the world, we wouldn't have the same opportunity. And so, as complicated as it is, I think I personally feel very grateful that we do have freedom of speech here, and we have the freedom to explore this and to question things and to stand against things and stand for things, even if we're not clear about it, like at all. Just kind of like, just like how Marjory, like you reached out and you're like, I don't know what I'm going to say to her, but I'm going to reach out anyway. Like somehow that gut feeling, that spirit is, I think that's going to attract other people who have that feeling too, who can't explain it, but they know it's there. And I think together we'll figure out what that is. This confusion of Filipinos in the diaspora and how complicated it is, because by the time our listeners listen to this episode, they probably would have already listened to JL's episode. And JL Umipig was talking about in her show how not all Filipinos identify as Filipinos, especially the ones that were not colonized. They identify with their indigenous heritage more than, even to be called Filipino. And so it is, I think the reason why we have this burden in a way is it's really a gift, as hard as it is to see, that it's a gift for us to make something good out of it. And whatever that turns out to be, like, who knows? But I'd love to believe that we're headed in the right direction because we're talking about it in a safe space with each other. And I really think that's the start of it, is acknowledging it. It's like, I'm sure you say this to your clients, you know, in order to solve a problem, you need to identify what the problem is first. And for us, we are identifying this problem that some people think we're not Filipino enough, we're not white enough, we're not American enough, we're not whatever enough. We're just not enough. We're just not enough.
Exactly. That is the bottom line.
Yeah, we're just not enough. But we're here to say we are enough.
Yeah.
And we're reclaiming our narrative. We don't know how we're going to write it out, but we're doing it. And that's what matters.
Right. Yeah. And that's, I guess, what I wanted to say earlier about feeling the need to prove yourself to a community or to a family or whoever it is you feel the need to, people that you follow on Instagram, whoever it is that you feel the need to prove to, is why I started getting super involved in the Instagram community and volunteering and doing things like that. But in that, which I hope happens for you as well, as you start to kind of explore here, I've found a lot of healing where I didn't expect to. So I hope that that's your experience as well.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I think you're going to have to come on the show more often, Marjory.
Yeah. We're going to have to do check-ins.
Yes. We're going to have to do like maybe every like 5 or 10 episodes. We need to just have you on. We're like, okay, Marjory, how you doing? How's your narrative going?
Yeah.
Start busting out my paper like, here, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Let me get my bio out.
Yeah. Not that I've figured it out either. I'm still trying to figure this shit out too. So, but maybe we can like come back with our notes and be like, oh, this is what I learned about myself in the last couple of weeks. But I love it. And I'm glad that we're having this conversation, even if it feels like there's no conclusion or anything, because that is part of our experience, is this kind of rediscovery and reclaiming our narrative. It's not easy because we think about all the narratives that have been kind of shoved down our throat, and we need to kind of throw that all up. We need to stick our fingers down our throat and just throw it up and eat something better, eat something healthier, and really just, and this is not to bash people who have kind of forced or unknowingly forced this narrative on us. It's more so to just like honor them, because I think about like where I currently live. I'm told that in Virginia Beach, there's a lot of Filipinos here, but I haven't ran into any of them yet. Not that I'm trying to hide or anything, but the majority of the people that I tend to be around is mainly like the white community. And when people ask me stuff like, where are you from? I've come to realize that, you know, they're really asking out of curiosity, and they're trying to find a way to relate to you, or at least relate to me. And for what it's worth, like I let that count. I'm just like, you know, at least like they're not maliciously trying to say something or trying to hurt my feelings. Like they're just genuinely curious, or genuinely trying to find a connection with me. And that's something, because, you know, I am not white. So yeah, of course they're going to ask those questions. Not that I ask white people, like, where are you from? You know, like,
tell me.
Maybe you should.
I've actually done that. I've done that before, actually. So back in the day before I met my husband, when I was dating, there was this one guy I was dating, and he was all like, where are you from? And I was like, oh, I'm from blah, blah, blah. And I was like, where are you from? And he was all like, he genuinely like thought about it. He's like, honestly, I don't know. And I was like, oh, well, good for you. That didn't work the way I was trying to, but okay. I was trying to like show what it feels like to have someone ask me.
You were trying to other him, and he wasn't getting it.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. I was trying to other a white person, a white man, a straight white man, and straight white men will never, I think, ever understand what it's like to be an other, ever.
Yes, I agree.
And I'm saying this having a white husband myself. He will never, ever understand. And so lucky me, he just tends to do everything I tell him to do. And that's fine with me when it comes down to it. Yeah. Well, anyway, I want to go ahead. And shift gears. And we were talking a little bit about what you do today, Marjory. So I wanted to go ahead and transition into that. For people who don't know you or getting to know you, why don't you share a little bit about a snapshot of your life today, particularly what keeps you busy and most excited about life nowadays?
Okay, cool. So I work full-time at a nonprofit organization called Hope Sparks here in Tacoma, Washington. And I primarily work with children there, family services, with kids who have behavioral issues, or oftentimes that looks like couples counseling for the parents, whether they want to or not. And yeah, oh, your child's having issues, come see me. I'm seeing you, not the child.
Right.
And sometimes I get lucky and see women of color, which are my favorite clients or my ideal clients, and we get to do deep, amazing work about oppression and patriarchy and sexism and racism, and it's my favorite kind to like empower women that way. Sometimes a little bit of domestic violence work as well, and then sexual assault for children, which is the worst part to hear.
Wow.
I know. A lot of really hard topics in my 8 hours a day at work. And then on Saturdays, I work at a private practice, my own business, where I'm starting it. And I just started in July. And so far, so good. I have a couple Filipino clients, and I speak Tagalog in my sessions, and it's so great.
Wow, nice.
To utilize that. It's kind of fun a little bit for them to like come in and they're like, what? You're going to do this? And I'm like, we're going to do this.
Love it.
And it's not even just like an accent. Like it's full like Tagalog, and it's fun for me to just like experience that for myself. Proving myself to only myself. And so that's cool. And then I am starting a podcast for therapists. And it's going to be called, I know, I'm really excited.
Oh my God. I love it.
I know. I'm super excited. And it's going to be called Therapeutic Bullshit. And
love it.
Yes.
I'm like, how soon are you ready to getting this up? We want to listen.
Yes.
Good. And it's just really for therapists to own their shit, and that they suck. They will suck sometimes at their jobs. And if you're not aware of sucking, then you're going to do harm for our clients. So it's about me and my friend Lindsay, who talk about our experiences in session and how what I think and how I feel immediately affects the person that's coming into my session. And if I'm not aware of that, I could be missing the mark or not actually being there for them. So we even talk about like small snippets where like in the middle of the session, I'm thinking of having sex with my partner. And I was like, what the fuck? You shouldn't be thinking about that right now. She's talking about her husband dying. So what are you doing?
Oh my God.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like real shit that therapists don't talk about. So it's going to be stuff like that. And then teaching us and teaching other therapists to like just notice that you're human and you're not God in the session, and that's normal.
Yeah. I want to ask you a question, Marjory, and Jen, you can cut it out if you don't want it in, but it reminded me of you starting your sessions and kind of feeling weird the last time we talked about it, about the person that you were seeing. And maybe we could get Marjory's take on that. Just like, what would you recommend if like you don't know if you're connecting with your therapist or not?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy to share. I was going to share it anyway.
Okay, great.
Okay. So a little background. A couple months ago, I was diagnosed with mild depression, and my doctor had immediately wanted to prescribe me like antidepressants at like the lowest whatever dosage. I ended up not taking those antidepressants because I wanted to talk to a therapist first before considering taking antidepressants. I was like, why is my doctor giving this to me right away? I was just kind of skeptical. I mean, I've been skeptical of like antidepressants in general, just because I just heard enough horror stories and to think like, okay, I don't know if that's going to work. It's kind of like, I personally don't do birth control anymore. Just, and this is even like while I was dating before I met my husband, just because when I used to do birth control, I would like gain weight from it. And then I found that when I got off of it, I started to just naturally shed weight again, and, just all these things. So I don't like putting things that aren't natural like in my body. And my skin is always like the best reflection of that. If my skin breaks out because I have eczema, then I know what I'm putting in my body is like not good for me. Anyway, I was able to get I believe she was a psychologist. At our first session, I felt like she was affirming, and she was like really listening and whatever, and validating me. And I thought, oh, cool, I'm going to have another session with her. But it was the second session where I was completely turned off. First of all, I showed up on time, but she came in like 5-10 minutes late. And then she ended on time. So like, even though she came late, she ended on time, meaning she cut like 5-10 minutes out of my session, maybe even 15 minutes. And then when I was talking to her, I just kind of felt like she was listening the whole time, which of course, yeah, I appreciate. But then at the end, she was like, okay, so do you want to schedule another session? Like I felt like I was kind of like cut off and immediately put into, okay, you want to go to the next session? And I was like, oh, well, yeah. And basically there was a part of me that was expecting that she would give me some call to actions, like some things to like consider or something to do. But it seemed like the next thing she wanted to do was to schedule an appointment. So I really like sat on that for a while. And I actually was supposed to see her last Wednesday. But since then, since even before I started seeing her, my husband started getting CBD oil, because as a veteran, we found this company that sells CBD oil, like quality CBD oil at wholesale prices for veterans. And so I'm just kind of freeloading off of him. But that CBD oil made such an incredible difference for me. Like I didn't realize I was depressed, like no joke, until I started taking it, because whatever dark cloud I had over me that I didn't realize, like I thought that was normal, it's gone. And and even I started doing these podcasts in the evenings, which I don't mind doing in the evenings, because that's usually the time where I would get like the most depressed. But I don't feel that way anymore. I feel like whenever a trigger happens now, it's like it's not really a trigger. It's more like, oh, okay, that happened. What should I do with that? It's not like I don't go into this deep depression of like, oh, my life, this is the reason why, like I don't try to like add up all the pieces and write a very sad narrative about myself. It's more like, okay, so this is the situation, what am I going to do about it? So anyway, I was supposed to meet her last week, but I had decided, I was like, you know what? I think I'm just going to, like, I could have gone back. I could have talked to her. I could have told her how I felt, but I also didn't want to go out of my way to like, it didn't feel like it was, it didn't feel like it was, that too. It didn't feel like she was serving me. And so I just decided not to go. But I'm curious, like I don't know if I just had bad luck or if most therapists are like this, but I'm curious to kind of get your take on like my experience with her, especially after that second encounter with her.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that with me. I think those are definitely very, very valuable feedback for therapists to hear. So if there's other therapists out there who's listening to this podcast, please take note. It's not okay to do that. So I will say, one, there are therapists out there that absolutely, absolutely suck, because it's actually really easy to get a diploma and then like call it good, right? So much like any other profession out there, some people are just actually really sucky at the jobs that they do and that they're not meant to be in that career. And then two, I always tell my clients or future clients that they need to shop. Is like finding the perfect bra. If it doesn't feel comfortable and it doesn't fit you, no work is going to be done, because you're going to come in resenting me, right? And I'm going to be so confused about what, like we're not connecting, and it's not good. I mean, I could be the person to be like, yo, I'm feeling some weird tension. Is there something you're not telling me? And if so, you need to tell me, because otherwise I'm going to continue doing this shit and you're not going to like it. So I think that's why that also, no one tells us to do that, to go shop for your therapist. You know, it's like, you can't just be friends with everybody. You know, you find your people.
Yeah.
And your therapist should be your people. And then, was your therapist white?
She looked, I think she mentioned she was from Hawaii, but that's basically white still. I mean, I don't know. If anyone was from Hawaii, you can slap my face. You tell me otherwise. But no, I think she mentioned she was from Hawaii, but she looked white, but she had like black hair. So I don't know if she was just a mix of some sorts, maybe like a Japanese American. I probably gather. She just didn't look like a white person.
Okay, cool. All right. But yes, sometimes too, if she was white, or for other people out there who are people of color going to a white therapist, there is a thing that does happen where we do express like how we feel as people of color, and they don't know what to do with that. And so they become dismissive of how we feel and try to like get us back unintentionally, unconsciously into sort of like colonialization again. Unknowing.
Whoa.
Right? Yeah, I know.
Deep.
I know. It's really harmful. So,
fucking bitches. No, I'm just kidding.
Fucking bitches. Get your shit together and learn about this. It's actually not that hard. Right. So I think when it comes to therapy, it needs to be serious. You have to find your right person.
Well, I appreciate that. And I do want to, I've decided like I canceled her for now, but I want to call in again to speak to another therapist. So I do want to consider like shopping around. I'm also just considering of just hiring a life coach. And I think Nani knows which one I'm talking about.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah. So I might do that just because with this particular person, she is Filipino. You know who I'm talking about? And she's very like action oriented and she just gets it. So I've been thinking a lot about that. And I had told her, I was like, well, let me seek out therapy first and see what it's like. And then I'll consider like, you know, hiring you after that. So that's kind of been on my mind right now, but I do want to see if I can find another therapist, even if I end up hiring her.
Yeah. And what I had told Jen was that that's not an abnormal experience to have when you're first starting out, like seeking therapy. So I know that it's discouraging because I went through that as well and I gave up after that. But now, like years later, I wish I hadn't. I wish I would have just been like, okay, well, she sucked. Let me try again, you know?
Yeah. This is why I don't want people out there being therapists who suck. So, they're ruining it for me. And also, I will say there's also another, because I want to also talk about that just a little bit for those out there who want to listen. Therapy and life coach or like spiritual work is very different. So I think it's really important to figure out what do you need, because if you're coming to a therapist to tell you what to do, we're not going to give it to you because that's not what we're there for. Right?
Can you kind of outline the differences for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So in therapy, we're there as a witness and to sort of do the sorting while you talk, as long as like saying like, hey, I'm hearing you say this and I'm noticing that, and then using certain techniques to like change the narrative for you and whatever you need, whether that's a thought, a behavior, or just to heal from other things and build empowerment. So it's not a whole lot of me telling you what to do. Actually, never ever will I tell anyone what to do in my sessions. I will give them homework, but you're more than welcome to not do them. Like, it's really up to you and utilizing those skills. And then life coach, it's sort of like the guidance. Like, I am right next to you and we're both going to do the thing, and I am your backbone. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I will trudge this pathway with you, which is super cool. And then like spiritual, it's about spiritual. So a lot of existential what's more than just being human, and life and death, and who am I, and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, it really kind of depends on like what particular way do you want your needs to get met.
So I went through this intensive spiritual coaching for a year before, like this was back in, what year was that now? Anyway, it was before I moved. So last year to it, like, so 2017, it was for about a year long. And yeah, exactly what you said. It was about like understanding my existence and purpose in the world. And it really centered me and make me, to say the least, it made me feel like I was enough. Even if I didn't know my purpose, it didn't matter. It wasn't about like knowing all the answers. It was about just being enough and just acting accordingly, like knowing that you're enough. And so I feel like I'm in a place now where, and I've never been like one to like have anyone hold me accountable for things. Like I usually just like to count on myself. But this year, the theme for me this year has been asking for professional help. So, I got physical therapy earlier this year, and then I tried therapy, which currently on hold. But I do see myself. Oh, and I'm part of a 6-week workout challenge. So there's that. And then now I'm considering of hiring a life coach, like for myself, just because I've got to a place now where it's like, okay, cool. I've done all the work I could for myself. And now I want someone else to like kind of look at me and help me go to whatever the next level looks like for me.
Yeah, so good.
Well, anyway, I love hearing like the work that you're doing, Marjory, and it sounds like you're very passionate and also almost enraged with what you do, because you want other therapists to represent your profession well. And so I am very much looking forward to your podcast show when it comes out. Like, please let us know. We'd love to just have you on the show again, just to talk about it and maybe do some like just cross promoting, I guess you can say.
Perfect.
And so I want to go ahead and just go to really my favorite part of the show, because I know it's been about an hour now and I want to respect everyone's time, mainly my time, because it's almost bedtime. Not that I sleep early, but anyway, I don't sleep early. I'm just talking out my ass. No, actually, I'm doing pretty well. I didn't even drink coffee. So the purpose, thank you. The purpose of this project is to collect a series of life lessons and stories told by the Filipino American woman to one day publish a book in which we can share to our fellow community. And so, Marjory, today, when I had asked you what's a life lesson you wanted to share, you had mentioned that self-awareness is key to cultivating a purposeful and meaningful life. I'd love for you to elaborate on that and also share maybe an aspect of your life, maybe a moment or a memory that led you to making this the life lesson that you wanted to share with us today.
Okay. Ooh, this one's always so interesting. Anything that has anything to do about me, talking about myself, always somehow leaves me like with a blank mind. So I wrote some things down to make sure.
Good. I'm glad you did.
Had it on together. Yes. Okay. So self-awareness. I really so I'm one of those people who can fall asleep, quote unquote, to my life pretty easily. Any sort of discomfort, or actually just any sort of discomfort, whether that's having nervous feeling to a sad feeling to a happy feeling, or any of those things that is beyond what I find comfortable, I can shut down my body and sort of dissociate and just be a living body where people don't really know that I'm shut down. And so I was really curious about that. And I was like, I'm really curious, why do I want to shut down and just be invisible? Which I think is definitely one of the interesting things. Like, Filipinos are so invisible to the world, and yet we're everywhere.
Yeah.
Right? And I was like, is this like part of our narratives as Filipinos to be invisible? And then I was looking at like some of my family. I'm like, they're not invisible. I mean, they're doing things and they're pretty awesome. But some of us still stay in that invisibility cloak for more than other people. So,
all right. Hey, everyone. I just wanted to take a quick second here to give a shout out to one of our newest TFAW Project podcast fans, Everett Orinion. Thank you so much, Everett, for joining us at the Fil-Am.com. Your support for the show is greatly, greatly appreciated.
It wasn't until grad school where I took a career therapy class and I learned about the enneagram, because I told you I was an enneagram nerd. And it's a tool or special skill template, if you will, to getting to know who you are and why do you do the things that you do. And anything that has anything to do with depth work, I am into. So I found out that I was a peacemaker / mediator type of person. And I was like, oh, that's very interesting. And they're generally invisible to the world. They don't feel that they are important, right?
Wow.
Somehow in their growing up, they have perceived that other people's stuff are more important than them. And so much so that if I were to say something of my opinion or of my anger, of my sadness, that it will get shut down. So I had a hard time believing that if I were to be myself, truly, truly myself, that people will leave me. So I've learned, I know, and that actually everything that motivates me is so that people don't leave me. My fear is separation. My fear is losing people that I love and that they won't love me for who I am, which makes sense now with the whole being both Filipino and white, right? I mean, you can't accept me for both of those things that I am. So what else can I do but be invisible?
Wow.
So
that's deep.
No, it's been a lot of work. Go to therapy for that. That would be a good goal. So it's been a very interesting journey. And it wasn't until I learned the deep, 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 darkest parts of myself did I realize, whoa, you are so afraid of showing up as a biracial woman, queer woman, and to be authentically that. And for people who are not even in my life to not be connected to you. How sad is that? So it wasn't until I found that and then sort of work your way back up and say to yourself, wait a minute, you're actually really cool and you can be an advocate for those who feel invisible and for those who feel like they're not important and that they matter in this world and that their opinions matter. And so by learning that, I've found my purpose. I always thought that I would somehow reach people in my own way, whatever that would be, to help them be their most amazing self, for them to achieve their own amazing greatness. So I think that's why I love self-awareness work or self-growth work, is that's where you find your gift and that your gift actually comes really easy to you and you shouldn't really hide it. And life every day feels better when you know you're utilizing those things and you know where it's going. Yeah.
Wow. I'm lost of words right now. I love it. I love everything that you said. Yeah, I do. Nani, do you want to save me here? I need to process this.
I do, and I almost feel like if I keep talking, we're gonna be on this call for the whole night, because I feel like, Marjory, you just opened a whole nother can of worms with that statement of my fear is losing people. I think that rings so true for me, and that is at the core of everything that I do is I can't understand it. I didn't even really I wasn't able to identify it until you just said that just now, and so many things started clicking. And obviously I need some more time to work through that, but that's huge. And I also really love what you said about self-awareness is how you find your gift. because that makes a lot of sense too. And I think that a common problem that a lot of people have, not just in our Filipino American community, but our generation, is they're not self-aware. And that's why this is such a big movement right now, because it has the power to like profoundly change your life if you just learn how to understand yourself. And it's amazing to me how many people don't know how to do that, because I thought I was the only one. So yeah, I mean, I have like goosebumps after you just finished talking right now.
Oh, good, because that's my purpose.
Yeah, thank you for saying that.
I still feel kind of shocked, but in a good way, kind of like, damn, that was really good. And so something for me, like I feel for you when you say that, you know, you're afraid of losing people, because I lost my dad when I was 10. And so I had real abandonment issues for a very long time. My mentality before was like, I had different mentalities. One mentality was like, well, I'm just going to hang around, but not be too attached because people end up leaving me anyway. Or I would get to this place where I would leave them first. I'd already kind of disqualify myself or cut them out of my life like almost immediately. Or
so
just
they
like
couldn't hurt you.
Yeah, exactly. And I became my own best friend and everything, because at the end of the day, I knew that I had me. And so journaling was a big thing for me, especially after I lost my dad. And growing up, you know, having an upbringing where your family didn't really embrace my curiosity and expressing myself, I always resorted to journaling. And so I feel very proud that I have a very close relationship with myself. Like I talk to my inner child very often. Her name is Jennifer, which is my full name, actually.
So cool.
And yeah, whenever I feel, and this is what I learned through my spiritual coaching, was that like whenever I feel anxious or something, I just check in with her and I say, Jennifer, what's going on right now? Talk to me. Like, how are you feeling? And it's so funny because I've gotten in so tune with her that she will just like just say whatever she wants. She's like, I'm upset. Yeah, she'll just like talk even before like I ask her. And this is me talking to myself, by the way. So, you know, this is me talking over myself, being upset, saying something like, why did he walk over us like that? We need to go back there and tell him that was not nice. She would say like, things like that. And she's really like my motivation to defend her, but really defend myself because in my upbringing, I didn't get a lot of that. I what I needed the most was to feel not provided for, but protected. And I was in a lot of situations where I didn't feel safe and I wasn't protected. And so part of my resolve today, and I think this is why I tend to be very motherly with a lot of my friends, is because I'm trying to protect them as I'm trying to protect my inner child and what she had to grow up with. So I think like it sounds crazy to people who are not in touch with their inner child, but let me tell you, when you get in touch with your inner child, however you figure that out, whether it's through spiritual coaching, you know, life coaching, or even through therapy, like once you get in touch with her, or however you identify he, she, or if you're non-binary, whatever, like whatever you do it. And you're just going to see how powerful it is to be in touch with yourself. Because once you do, it's like part of why I make fun of myself a lot on the show. And most of the outtakes are me making fun of myself, is because I enjoy that I'm imperfect. You know, I enjoy that now, as opposed to back then, I would be so hard on myself for stuttering or saying my ums or ahs, or like just not knowing what to say. So yeah, I think self-awareness is such a beautiful thing. And I love how you said that it's how you find your gift. And I think, like, I mean, I can't like pinpoint my gift, but I know it has something to do with this podcast. So just thank you, Marjory, for sharing that. And, you know, to be quite honest, unless you guys have somewhere to go, I can keep talking. So, but no, I'm glad. Like I never really have like a set time for these shows. I just think they need to go as long as they need to go on. We just have like some set questions. And this was really the last question that I wanted to ask. I think it really ties in everything that we talked about from the very beginning of feeling like an other, because other people made us feel other. We've convinced ourselves, like we've alienated ourselves from ourselves. And so I think part of the narrative now is like, you know what, I'm going to not alienate myself anymore. and, start there. And once I solidify that, it doesn't matter how other people talk to me. It doesn't matter what they say. It doesn't matter if they say I'm a white girl or I'm not enough, period. Like whatever it may be, because you have like such a tight-knit relationship with yourself and you've no longer alienated yourself. And I think beautiful things will come out of that. Like when we all get to that place.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Oh.
Yes.
I mean,
Great.
I know what your gift is just based on this whole thing, but oh, makes you ready.
Oh, can you tell me? I'm curious. I'm not because I have like low self-esteem, but I always love feedback. So yeah, what's my gift?
Let me tell you. Well, first I want to preface because I do know that sometimes, because I'm a therapist, I feel like I should do this. But one, I want to say, like, sometimes compliments or me saying what people's gifts are can be a trigger. Like, whether that's something that someone they didn't like said those things to them. And that also, like, me saying a gift that I feel like you have could also just be a projection of what I want you to be in my life.
Okay.
So, yes. So what I think your gift is, you're ready. Take a deep breath.
Yes, my mouth is like wide open right now.
Okay, cool. I think your gift is you paved the way for us to be inspired and to sort of make our own.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
You are very motivating.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
And inspiring. And like you're doing the thing and we're like, okay.
She's like a natural leader. We kind of just follow by nature.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm getting that.
Oh,
okay,
well,
cool.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I embrace that. And I appreciate that because really with this podcast, it is my wish for it is to pave a path for all of us, for us to pave together, actually, because I only have so many tools and resources and I don't want to do all the work. But yeah, thank you. That's very affirming. And I'm speechless again. You two make me speechless like this entire episode today. But thank you. I appreciate that so much. And I'm excited to edit this because then I get to hear that again.
Yeah. I think that just goes back to what Marjory said in the beginning, or not in the beginning, but a couple of minutes ago about finding your gift is about self-awareness and it's really not that hard. It's funny to hear that for me because it's like I'm sitting here doing all this work trying to find my gift, and like Jen, you're putting in all this work for the podcast to find your gift, and we're already doing it. You know what I mean? You're already using your gift. You're here already creating things with it. So sometimes I think we have to all remember that it's not always as complex as we think it is.
So what's Nani's
Yeah.
gift?
What's my gift?
Well,
So that
let me take a minute. Let me take a minute. I want to make sure I say it very nicely, or not like I was gonna be mean about it, but I'm just I want to find the right words to explain it. I think for me, based on what I know of you so far, Nani, well, first of all, I think you're very articulate. Even though you don't know like the direction of your life or anything, when we first spoke, that was one of the first things that stood out to me, is that you were able to articulate that you didn't know what you were doing with your life in a very eloquent way, whether you knew it or not. I think you are courageous I think you're courageous in a way that you wanted to be involved in this project, even though you didn't know what was going to come of it. And I think you're organized, and I think you're thoughtful and detail oriented. And I think that once you find out, like, your niche, especially with your blog and stuff, it's going to be really powerful because you're already an articulate person. And once you find whatever that is you're looking for, it's just going to skyrocket. And I am just excited to be there, to be a part of that when it happens.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Jen.
Wow,
you're welcome.
That's amazing.
This is fun. I feel like we're just like hanging out in someone's living room and just
we totally are.
I mean, yes.
I love
We
it.
just need some cocktails.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Or some CBD oil.
Yes. Yeah. You know, Washington isn't too far from the Bay Area. So we're
That's
going to have to
true.
I
like,
know. I'm now just, I don't know why I keep forgetting, but my really close family, I have really close family in, I don't know how to say it. Is it Gig Harbor or Gigi Harbor?
Oh. Gig Harbor. That's literally like 10 minutes away from where I work.
Oh,
ooh.
okay. Yeah, I have family. They
Yeah.
moved up there. They were in California. They moved there a year, maybe 2 years already now. Maybe it's been even longer. I don't know, but I still have not been up there to see them yet. So I have got to get that on my to-do
Well
list
then,
I will let you know when
you know where to
I'm in
go.
town. Yeah.
You
Perfect.
know,
Oh.
it sounds to me, Nani, that you're gonna have a big year next year because I know you're going to the Philippines, and I think you mentioned you were going somewhere else, right? Like you're going to Singapore.
Yeah, we're in Singapore just for the last 4 days of the Philippines trip.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
And who
good.
knows? Maybe we can coordinate something where I come over to. I feel like we're not even recording anymore. Where we go to where I go visit the Bay Area, but we kind of tour around and just meet all the amazing women
Yes.
we've like interviewed and stuff. So maybe
Yeah.
that could probably be like a fun summer trip. But
That
let's see how this plays out. Let's keep
okay.
talking about it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll just keep it on the books and we'll figure out a time next year, maybe spring or summer that we could do that. That would be really fun. Maybe check in with everybody that we've interviewed over here.
Yes, I think that
We'll
would
do a
be
tour.
excellent. Yes, yeah, that's what I was thinking. We could definitely do a tour. I would love to do that.
Oh, I like that
Do
idea.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be great. Well, ladies, I am just so grateful for both of you and your time. You know, Nani co-hosting as always. Marjory, I just appreciate I've learned so much from you in this episode. I just feel like we've been in the same room just getting to know you and learning your story and exchanging stories and experiences. And I feel like I already know you. I feel like you're already like a girlfriend of mine. If you'll
Right.
if you'll
Of
accept
course.
my friendship.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, cool. Yes, I got a new friend.
Yeah.
And so do you have any closing thoughts for us and particularly let's say the listeners who feel misplaced, who feel like an other? Do you have any thoughts for them?
Ooh, thoughts for those who feel othered. Make sure to find, I don't know. That's a really hard one because everyone is othered. But at least in the Filipino culture, find your people.
There you go.
Yeah, I would say find your humans, find your people who actually accept you for who you are. That is the start of you loving yourself without having to like constantly prove who you are. When you're in that spot where you feel accepted and loved and belonged, you build a stronger armor for those moments when you feel othered.
Word.
Kind of like right now, right? You know, you guys are going to be part of like my armor now, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yes. Armor. Well, cool. Well, Marjory, it's been an absolute pleasure connecting with you. And I know this is not the last time we're going to have a conversation with you. But for anyone that wants to, if anyone wants to reach out to you until then, how can they do that?
Yeah. You are more than welcome to follow me on my Instagram, and it's MKW Counseling, I believe, is what it says. Yes, it is.
I'll look it up for you real quick. MKW
Counseling.
Yes, MKW
Yes,
Counseling, everyone. MKW Counseling.
Yes.
On Instagram.
Please go ahead and follow me. I hope that, you'll like the content that I put out. It's really geared towards counseling and self-empowerment and self-awareness. You're more than welcome to, if you're wanting to connect with me, I have my link of my website on Instagram. And if you know anyone in my area in Washington, specifically Tacoma area, that wants counseling, you're more than welcome to use my website as well as Psychology Today to look me up. Anything else? Oh, stay tuned for my future podcast called Therapeutic Bullshit. We have an Instagram on there.
I love it.
I'm hoping that at least in 2 weeks that we'll put up our first 3 episodes. So until then, stay tuned.
Awesome. I dig it.
Yes, we will.
Cool.
Yes, I will definitely subscribe to that. I think I'm going to enjoy that very much.
All right.
All right. Well, Nani, I want to thank you again for co-hosting as always.
Yes, it is my pleasure.
And your audio sounds excellent today.
Yay! Now that I know how to work these headphones, I'm gonna use them going forward.
Yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised. Like, I was already content with how you sounded, but I was like, whoa, I can hear you. I can really hear you now. It's awesome. I love it. But anyway, that's aside the point. Yes, thank you so much, Nani. And thank you again, Marjory. And thank you to our listeners. If this show had resonated with you in any way, which I believe it did, please reach out and you can leave us a message. You can email us or you can reach out to Marjory. If you just enjoy listening, if you felt like your cup was filled just for listening, then that's great too. But yeah, check out the show notes if you want to get a hold of us. With that said, I want to thank you all for listening, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.